The Los Angeles Rams finished the 2023 regular season with a 10-7 record and made the playoffs for the third time in 4 years. Unfortunately, they lost in the wildcard round of the playoffs to the Detroit Lions with a score of 24-23 in what was Matt Stafford's first game back in the Motor City. They certainly had their ups and downs throughout the 2023 season, but it was a pretty successful season, all things considered. This was after a year in 2022 in which the Rams went just 5-12, and in a year where their big three in Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald all missed significant time. They traded star corner Jalen Ramsey in the offseason and released linebacker Bobby Wagner, and expectations were pretty low entering the 2023 season. But a lot of players on this team didn't listen to the noise, as several players had breakout years, including running back Kyren Williams and a receiver who broke the rookie receiving yards in BYU's Puka Nacua. But this offseason, the Rams had a pretty big player announce their retirement, both in stature and in terms of contributions on the field. That player, of course, goes by the name of Aaron Donald. This team has a lot of talent, but there is a pretty big question, and that, of course, is what's next. Well, in today's video, we're going to try and break it all down and even have a draft preview and what Rams fans can expect. There is a lot to dive into in today's video, so let's dive right in. We are starting today's video by discussing why the Rams are in such an interesting situation, and it's due to how their roster is constructed. Notice we said interesting situation and not bad situation, because the Rams are not in a bad situation. Had they won the playoff game against the Lions this past year, I think there is a very real possibility this team would have went to the NFC Championship and faced the 49ers with the season on the line. Obviously, they didn't, but them being in the NFC, a conference that doesn't have the Mahomes, Allens, Jacksons, Burrows, Strouds, and you name it, I think there is a non-zero chance the Rams can win a playoff game, if not multiple, in 2024. Of course, you can say this about several other teams, but one thing the Rams did right in 2023 that they did not do for a couple of years was draft at a high level. We often talk about roster construction and how acquiring good depth pieces through the NFL draft is critical, but when you look at the Rams' third-round picks and beyond, a part of the draft where you are supposed to get key contributors, and sometimes if you're lucky, a star or two over the years, well, the Rams didn't do a good job of that for not just 1 or 2 years, but several. 2022 was the culmination of not drafting great, and when the stars got hurt on top of that, well, you saw the result. A 5-12 year with not a lot of expectations heading into 2023. But in the 2023 draft, things changed, and in a big way. Obviously, we all know about the Puka Nacua selection, but the first 3 selections they had in the 2023 draft were amongst the best of any NFL team's first 3 selections in the 2023 draft, excluding the Lions and Texans here for obvious reasons. But Steve Avila was a good prospect coming out of TCU and a guy I liked a lot in the draft process, and he came in and started all 17 games. The Rams signed guard Jonah Jackson this offseason from the Lions, and sure, you can argue they overpaid him, but he's still a solid player, and the interior part of the Rams' offensive line is going to be a good part of their roster in 2024. Their next 2 selections in the 23 draft were Byron Young, a pass rusher from Tennessee, and Kobe Turner, a defensive tackle from Wake Forest. Both players had great rookie years, whether they were drafted in the first round or the third round, like each of these guys were. Byron led all rookies in pressures for a considerable part of the year before Will Anderson of the Texans eventually passed him, and all Kobe Turner did in year 1 was lead the team in sacks with 9 and have 16 quarterback hits and play a big part in why the Rams' defensive line was so good. These 2 guys were players I was monitoring throughout the regular season, and these 2 guys are going to play a big part in the Rams' future. To be honest, I thought with how these 2 played in 2023 that Aaron's decision to retire would have waited a year, so this trio could have played another year together. They were a fun trio to watch, but the future without Aaron Donald will have an impact on not just Byron and Kobe, but the entire Rams defense. Losing Aaron Donald isn't just losing a good player that had a few good years. No. While there are a couple of hundred former NFL players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there's levels to being in the Hall. I'm not going to name a guy who isn't on the level of Aaron Donald and disrespect another Hall of Famer in the process, but there are two players in NFL history to play 10 seasons and make the Pro Bowl in every year and retire after their 10th season. And those two players are Barry Sanders and Aaron Donald. I think there's two other guys you can put Aaron in the same class in from a legacy standpoint and how much they impacted the game defensively, and those two are Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White. The reason we bring all of this up and talk about some other NFL legends is replacing Aaron Donald is an impossible task for anybody. In recent mock drafts, I have mocked the Rams' Laiatu Latu, a pass rusher from UCLA, in hopes the pass rush could have been a quartet of Latu, Donald, Turner, and Young. But now I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Rams draft Illinois' Johnny Newton, who is a very good defensive tackle prospect. And as you imagined, the retirement of Donald plays into why the Rams are in an interesting situation, because they have a blend of older talent and a great crop of young talent too. The blend of older talent here would of course be Matt Stafford, who will play the season at 36 years old, and receiver Cooper Kupp, who will play the season at 31 years old. I know the Rams went 10-7 last year and won 7 of their final 8 games after a 3-6 start, but I like this team a lot and I really think the NFC is wide open. This team also improved a lot when running back Kyren Williams came back after he missed some time in the middle of the year due to an ankle sprain. Their only loss after their Week 10 bye was to the Ravens on the road. Yes, the Ravens lost in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs, but they were one of the best teams all year, and there is no shame in losing to them in their stadium, especially when the Rams took it to overtime. They went through some struggles early in the year, but after the bye, they averaged nearly 28.3 points per game, compared to the 19.8 points per game in the first half of the year. Unfortunately, Brett Rippon started one of those games, which was at Lambeau against Green Bay, and if you take that game out, because surely a Matt Stafford-led team would have scored more than just 3 points, then instead of the 19.8 points per game, it jumps up to 21.9 points per game before the bye. But the point is, they averaged nearly a touchdown more per game in the back half of the 2023 regular season, and even put up 30 or more points in 4 of their final 8 games. The Rams are in a unique situation because if you know anything about the Rams and what they've done over the past 8 years, then you know they love to trade first-round picks and bank on building the rest of the roster through the draft as long as they had their star players. But 2024, at least as the time I record this, because you never know with the Rams, is the first year they will have their first-round pick since 2016 when they selected Jared Goff number 1 overall. When discussing the Rams' possibilities with their first-round pick, there's a lot of options and it doesn't pertain to just one position. We know how the Rams are with their picks and how they aren't afraid to move around, and they currently have 4 selections in the top 100 and 11 picks overall. With how loaded this tackle class is, I could see the Rams trying to move up, and depending how the quarterbacks fall, Denver could be an option for the Rams to move up to pick 12 so they can get the best remaining tackle available. Getting the best tackle available would obviously help improve the exterior part of the offensive line, but the media often talks about having players at key positions on their rookie contracts, and an obvious example of that is the Rams' division rival in San Francisco, who currently has Brock Purdy on his rookie contract, but being able to draft a tackle in the first round and to have that player on the rookie contract for the next 4 years would be critical for LA. Aaron Donald retired, but he will still be paid $24.9 million in 2024 and be paid $38.5 million in 2025, and this is per Spotrac.com, by the way. So paying a premium position as little as they can for the next few years is definitely in the Rams' best interest. Just because a player retires does not mean they are entirely off the books. This is also an unrelated point to Aaron Donald, but kind of a related point to the video, and that's a big reason why teams are hesitant on giving aging players long-term deals. Not just because of the declining play, which is to be expected from any aging player, but because if they retire 1 year into a 3 or 4 year deal, then the team is on the hook for the guaranteed part of the contract. So the Rams are paying Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Matt Stafford a combined $104.2 million in 2024, again per Spotrac.com, and that's a big reason why it's important to hit on those premium positions early in the draft. In addition to drafting a good player and hopefully a franchise-changing player, you also receive 4 years on a discount. Troy Fautanu, the offensive lineman from Washington, would be a great pick for them, but if they wanted to go with a defensive route, they could very easily take one of the top 2 interior defensive linemen in the draft in Illinois' Johnny Newton or Texas' Byron Murphy. I don't think the Rams will do this, but there is also a chance they trade up into the top 10 and get a premium player, and you can insert nearly any position here. If the Rams wanted to go up and get Rome Odunze and have a trio of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Rome, and basically say, stop us, well, they could. I don't think that will happen, of course, but due in large part to the Rams' past with trading first-round picks, you never know what they're going to do. This is uncharted waters for them because of how long it's been since they were selecting in the first round. The Rams division is also in a unique situation really across the board because it's time for San Francisco to pay Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey will turn 28 in June, so he's entering the declining years for a running back. Not only that, but Trent Williams will be 36 in July, and George Kittle will turn 31 in October. I still think the 49ers will be very good in 2024, and I don't want that point to be lost, and I think even Rams fans can acknowledge that, but I think 2023 was their best chance to win it all, and we saw what happened. They lost 25-22 to the Chiefs, as Patrick Mahomes and company would go on to win their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. The Seahawks just hired former Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald after they went 9-8 and finished the year 25th in points per game allowed. Seattle was also terrible for the 2nd straight year in run defense, as they allowed the 2nd most yards, 3rd most touchdowns, and the 6th most yards per carry defensively in 2023. Arizona's future is very bright, and I think there is a real possibility they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th overall pick, but not only that, it is worth noting the Cardinals have 6 picks in the top 100 and 7 in the top 104. I trust Monty Ozenfort, and it's not unreasonable to think the Cardinals can be in the hunt in November and December of the 24 season, but I don't think they're going to be better than the Rams in 2024, regardless of how the draft goes. LA is a damn good team, and I think you can convince yourself that not just LA, but anybody can make a run in the NFC this year. And if you're LA, do you go all in knowing how close you were to winning a playoff game last year in what was supposed to be a down or rebuilding year? I think it's completely reasonable that the Rams can win the NFC West in 2024. Will they, of course, is a different discussion, but they most certainly can. Having an aging quarterback with a lengthy injury history certainly makes this more complicated because you would think the Rams will draft an offensive lineman early to do whatever they can to not only protect Matt Stafford, but help out Kyren Williams in the run game too. But when you take a look at the defense, this is a unit that needs a lot of work. Not only do they need a lot of work, but they lost their defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris, who is now the Atlanta Falcons head coach. I think there will be a difference on the field, not just because of Aaron Donald, but by also losing one of the more underrated defensive minds in all of football. The Rams bounced back in a big way in 2023 from a drafting standpoint, and will have several good players on their rookie contracts for the next few years. But will 2024 be the last year for Stafford and Kupp? Will the Rams try and trade up to go get their quarterback in 2025 so they too can have a quarterback on their rookie contract? It, of course, is to be determined, but whichever route the Rams decide to go, I think they have positioned themselves to be contenders for the next few years. I think they will be a playoff team in 24, and if there's anything that's been shown over the past few years, it's to not doubt Sean McVay and the Rams. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 29% of people watching are subscribed, and it helps the channel tremendously. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.